Hi. Okay, so I've been watching the Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate, as you can see back there, and I'm just keeping it on. I've already finished the whole thing a couple times actually, and not all the way through, but like I've seen the last like 30 minutes like 3 or 4 times, and I thought it was very interesting, and I feel like this is just a modern day Scopes monkey trial, which was the trial that took place in 1925, and that was basically evolution versus creationism. And that was 89 years ago. So think about 2000, when we did not have iPods and iPhones and PS4s and, the things that are here right now technology-wise. And think about all the advancements in the last 14 years. And then I want you to think about 89 years and how many discoveries and advancements we have made in that period of time. And we are actually having the same debate as 89 years ago. And I find that fascinating. And it really is basically the same thing, just in a modern age. Back then, people across the US tuned their radios in and they listened to the trial, and that was so cool. And now we have the internet, and people across the world can watch this, as you see right there. And that is amazing. That's crazy and awesome. But also ridiculous that we're having the same debate. And I just wanted to talk about some of the things that Ham said during this debate. My phone may die, and so there may be like a huge jump in this. But basically this whole debate was, I made this list of notes for the last like 30 minutes, and basically Bill Nye, the science guy, is just throwing science at Ham, and Ham, basically his response a few times in the debate is actually, well, Bill, it's funny to say that, because I have a book. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called the Bible, and it has all the answers. And that's not a debate. That is a joke, and it's incredibly insulting to Bill Nye to waste his time to get him there so he can make a mockery of science. Like, that's just ridiculous. But, alright, so the first one I have on here, let's just go through these fairly quickly. Life is pointless if there's no God. Ham says, why would you want to make advancements in technology if there's no God? Because you're just going to die and it's pointless. Why would you get joy of discovering anything? And I think that is so incredibly selfish to say that because I won't be alive in 50 years, that means that I shouldn't try to make any discoveries to help somebody who is in 50 years. That's ridiculous. If everybody thought like that, would we have any technology? Like, would people even live? Would they not just kill themselves? Like, if you look at that view of it's all pointless. And I think it's just beautiful we're here, and I think being a good person is enough reason to be a good person. I think discovering something new and learning something new and finding out something new is enough reason to try to find something new. I don't need a reward in the end of it, and I felt like that was so selfish in just the ideology of it, and it was just disgusting to me. Bill Nye asked him to do two things over and over. I mean, he had multiple, but like these two specifically are what I noticed over and over and over again. Was that a real theory, something that scientists consider a real theory, we'll go into that later, of what that is, predicts something. And he asked if Ham can predict anything, and Ham never addresses it. He doesn't ever say that he can predict anything. He also gave this model of skulls, of all different types of human skulls, over the evolution of humans, and Ham never addresses it, even though Bill Nye asked him to over and over and over again, and he never says anything on it, which was annoying. There's a question to Ham, and it was like, if you were shown evidence of change, would you, like, what evidence hypothetically would make you change? And Ham says nothing. Nothing would make you change, because no matter what you say, the Bible ain't God. And so how do you argue with somebody that isn't willing to change? Or Bill Nye says over and over again that if you can prove, and Bill Nye even like spells out what he has to do to prove to him that he's wrong, and if he could do it, just one example of it, Bill Nye would say he's wrong, and accept whatever the correct answer is, because that is the humility involved in science.
They have to be compatible because those same people embrace science. The exception.
So, let's see, what's next? I'm gonna come to the natural laws thing later. He asks, where does conscience come from? Ham says, Bible. Ham was talking about that that life cannot come from matter, and to that I just wanted to say that in all life there are 11 amino acids. I believe it's 11. 11 amino acids. It's something around there makes up all life. So, basically there's an experiment where they simulated early Earth in a jar, and they struck it with lightning, and some of the amino acids were made. And then they did a later one where they made it pretty accurate to what early Earth's atmosphere would be, and they struck it with lightning. And you want to know what developed? All the amino acids you need for life. All of them. Now, they didn't watch it become a microorganism and watch it evolve into animals. I'm just throwing it out there that is what could potentially be the beginning to life starting. And where you want to argue consciousness comes in, that's another thing. But scientifically, that is possibly how life starts. And that's really cool. Nothing in astronomy, well, as Bill Nye said, there are stars that are over 6,000 light years away. So it would take over 6,000 light years to get here. But if the Earth's only 6,000 years old, how do you see something that many light years away? It's not something that correlates to the laws of physics. Oh, but God. God, that's how. He says laws of logic over and over again. I don't really know what that means. He says that you have to have the laws of logic in order to, which you get from God, in order to trust the laws of nature. I don't know what the laws of logic are, but I do know what the laws of nature are. And actually, he was saying that laws of nature they're just history. I mean, you don't know what really they used to be. I mean, if you believe the Bible, then you know. But otherwise, you don't know. You have no idea. And basically, he's saying that because you don't know, laws of nature could just change at any time, unless you have God and laws of logic. And that argument doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense at all. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's what you're saying is you're talking about the laws of nature changing over time. Science says the laws of nature never change, ever. The end, they're laws of nature. Science says that gravity is and always was as it is now. It's a law. Laws don't change. Sorry, 9% popped up. Let's see. He says that science borrows from creation. I think he's talking about that right now, actually. And science borrows from creation because basically God puts the idea in your head, is what he says. Which doesn't make sense because later he talks about secularists being awful and that Christians and creationists invent great things like MRIs and satellites and cool, whatever. And then secularists, they also invent really cool stuff, awesome, great, inventing stuff. Power to everyone, whatever, awesome, I don't care what you believe as long as you invent it. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me is that considering you have a very narcissistic God who created a whole world and a whole race of people to worship him, but you're telling me that God gives the ideas to everyone, but he also gives the ideas to people that don't worship him, like secularists and people that are of other religions, because there are such a thing as inventors in China and Japan. I guarantee you, most of them probably not Christian. I know a lot of people in South America, not so much Christian. But those people, somehow they get ideas too. From God, even though they don't worship or know about him at all. Okay. Also, he was talking about, just back to the selfish point earlier, he was talking about how out of everything God chose this planet and this race of people to worship him, and that every single one of them are special and kids need to know that. And I was just like, that's so incredibly selfish. Anyways. Let's see. Yep. Oh, he talks about the fish. He says that survival of the fittest doesn't make sense because there's fish in caves that used to have eyes and now they don't. But it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the ones that survive. And that's why their genes carry on, because they survived. And I was just sitting here just like, that's survival of the fittest. Ham, okay, whatever. Same thing. That is this. You're literally just calling it something else, that's it. But you're saying the same definition, like... Magic. I explained it. It's magic. It's not science. Magic. They ask where their belief base is. Ham says the Bible, of course. And then he says that no other religions explain origins, where the sun, the moon, the stars, everything comes from. That is not true. Actually, Greeks, they have different gods for the sun, the moon, heavens, earth, everything. Hinduism, Wiccans, different gods for other things. That's how they explain it. Just to mute your point altogether, there's actually one other religion that definitely does explain origin, and that does explain where all those things come from, because they have the same story as you, because it's Judaism. It's a different religion, but they only believe in the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. But guess what? They're still a different religion. You said no other religion does it, so mute point. Let's see, what's next? And then he talks about that God, once you believe in him, he reveals himself. And really, that is the ideology behind his entire argument. That he has this book, and he's making everything fit into the book. Like, he's taking the book, and then he finds the evidence to show that it's the book. He makes it fit in. And that isn't science. That is a fallacy. It's... once you believe that something's there, it's going to be there. Back in ancient times, or not ancient times, but like Middle Ages, there'd be a bad storm or disease, and then there'd be an outcast from society, and they'd say, well, this went wrong, this person's not like the rest of us, clearly they're a witch, they have a deal with Satan, and they caused it. And then they would get rid of that problem until the next storm where there's a new, where clearly someone else has made a deal with Satan, because now the other person has it. And so they get rid of that person, and they kept going, and it's a dangerous cycle of thought that isn't over, because it's things like this where it still exists, or things like the witch hunts, not witch hunts, but satanic daycares in the 80s that people still sit in jail for. Go look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Please, because it is infuriating and ridiculous, because people were put in jail when there was no proof of any of the accusations, but it was because they were satanic cult daycare people, and people freaked out and they got put in jail, and it was anyways, back to this point, is that you can't take something and then try to make things fit. Science is starting from the bottom, in the words of Drake, and then you're here. You look at the evidence, and then you find something that supports all the evidence. You have a hypothesis, you test it. If it's wrong, you adjust your hypothesis, you test it. When it's right, other people test it, then they say it's right, and then that's a theory. That's what a theory is. A theory is something tested over and over and over again, and if you can prove it wrong, then they change it. They change the theory. They make it work. They make it fit. They find something else to explain it, and that's the beauty of science, and that is what Bill Nye is talking about. Not something where you have an answer and then you find the evidence to make it work. That is not science. That is faith. That is belief. And as interesting as it is to look into the cultural norms and see how this trial relates to the Scopes Monkey trial, and to see that we're still in the same position, I can't help but find it sad that we have yet to move forward. And the money that is going to this creation museum can be used and donated to fight cancer. It can be used and donated to women's rights women's shelters. It could be used and donated to homeless shelters. It could be used and donated to so many things, and people are sending it to this bullshit. Sorry, but like, why?
Why should we trust the laws of nature?
I just find it upsetting that in 89 years, virtually, as everything has changed around us, our mindsets and our ideas have not. Obviously, they have in some extents, but when it comes to science versus religion, it hasn't nearly to what it should be at this point. And I hope that seeing debates like this show how ridiculous it is, because this debate was a bit of a joke, in the sense of that he would literally not answer Bill Nye's questions. Like, he would just say, oh, the Bible. And that is not a debate. That is ridiculous. And I just feel bad that Bill Nye got dragged there, but I think he probably did change at least one person's mind, or at least show them something that they didn't think about before. And I guess that kind of makes it worth it. Anyways, this is the second time I've had to film this video. My phone's about to die, and it's like almost 1 in the morning, and I have class tomorrow. So I'm gonna end it here. Thank you for watching, if anybody did, and till next time, London out.